Hey, it's Lowery Smith of the Commander Smiths here with Searching for the Spotlight, Ketramose. Most of the time, I own all the cards that I'm going to be playing with, but right now, or building with. Ketramose is like a $40, $50 card. I'm not going to buy it right now. I'm going to hope that it goes down in price a little bit. And so this deck might be wishing and praying. But basically, Ketramose is one and a white and a black for a 4/4 god, has menace, lifelink, and indestructible, and then it can't attack or block unless there are seven or more cards in exile. And then whenever one or more cards are put into exile from graveyards and or the battlefield during your turn, you draw a card and lose a life. So I think most people are building this with some sort of exile. You know, you want to be heavy in the exile, which is great. You know, Swords of Plowshare, Path to Exile are heavily played cards. And there are some cards that you would expect in here, probably some cards that you wouldn't expect. Um, because I'm not going to be playing with Rest in Peace. I'm not really doing a ton of graveyard hate, whatever this card is telling you. There's only like three or four cards in here that are going to be doing that. Um, so hopefully I'm going a fun way. It's kind of like an ETB, draw cards, exile stuff, and a little bit of graveyard hate. But that's where we're at. Commander Smiths, what are we? We are a podcast that comes out every week, generally Monday nights, but we've been busy for apparently 6 months. We've been doing we're gonna be recording live here on YouTube Tuesday night here. We always come out on Wednesday audio, any at your favorite podcast, whatever listening pleasure, and we will let's get that out of there. We do curated, which is curated MTG. If you look that up, you'll find just cards that I put in the decks that aren't played a whole ton and maybe give you some ideas. We also do proxies. We have a Discord. We have a Patreon. We have a lot of stuff going on, and we've been doing this for a long time, so we're not likely going to disappear. We got some gameplay videos. We're on other apps if you want to, if you like those better. I don't know. Just check out the Commander Smiths. Also, share, like, subscribe this if you like this. That's always helpful. And if you are not watching this live, check out, or go in 1.5 speed or whatever, and you'll be just fine. Let's start with this. So Ketramose, I already read that. Exiling theme. Um, and this is in CMC order, and then we'll kind of break it up into what they're doing in the deck, and then card type, and then probably go through CMC and what they're doing in the deck one more time, and then call it a night. It'll be an hour, hour and a half. And that's where we're going. I have 25 cuts to do. Also, if you want to see the current deck list or whatever is happening in real time, go check out Commander Smith's on Moxfield. I already have that up, and whatever cards is in here right there. And if you want to look at sideboard cards, those are cards that are kind of cool, but not going to make the deck, but they're kind of probably more unique pieces and stuff like that. All right, going through this, starting this. All right. Marrow Bone Gnawer. This one taps, target player removes a card in his or her from her graveyard from the game, and whenever you play a black spell, you can untap it. So every time you activate this, you get to draw a card if Ketramose is in play, and that's not a bad thing when you can do something multiple times to draw cards. Esper Sentinel, just for that card draw, it's beautiful. Wayfarer's Bauble for that ramp to go get a land card. I'm gonna make this a little bit smaller. I'll try and make cuts as I'm going as well, and I'll explain why they're kind of in there. But most of the time, it's just, yeah, we got land, we got ramp, Dark Ritual for that ramp, Springleaf Drum to be able to tap for more mana at a faster pace, Mox Amber, again, also Ketramose comes down pretty early, so I like Mox Amber there. If it's a 5+ CMC commander, I don't like Mox Amber nearly as much. Lotus Petal, just putting something in the graveyard kind of early, allow myself to exile something from my graveyard. With any of that stuff. So Soul Ring for that ramp. Solitude, that is 3/2 flash lifelink. Whenever Solitude ETBs, your stones or Swords to Plowsharing. If you do evoke it, exile white card from your hand. That does not count But evoke is it comes into play, you're gonna exile a creature, and then this will be sacrificed. Um, get out of here, Dad. I'm not gonna cuss, but is this for life? Yeah, probably not. It's maybe a 5-year cool card. Give you tops. I don't know. Solitude, cool card in here, I'd say. Swords of Plowshare. That'll be good in here as well. Those we know some of the cards that are just gonna be really good in this deck. Path to Exile. I got this one in Germany when I was there. Um, all right, Deadly Rollick. That's also an exile pinpoint card for free when Ketramose in play. That's gonna be a solid card. You got Flawless Maneuver, another free spell, gives all your creatures indestructible. You got ETB creatures that you want to be kind of doing back and forth. Most of the protection in this deck is going to be Blink, but because Blink also exiles Wink, so you get to draw cards off that. But you want a little bit of just making sure things stay on the board. Ephemerate, one white instant exile target creature you control, then return it to the battlefield. So exile, return to the battlefield under its owner's control. It has rebound, so you get to do it again the next turn. It's a way to be. Cloud Shift, same thing without the rebound. Shadow Spear, this is in here because of the pay one, remove hexproof and indestructible, and it just getting around some of the shroud and hexproof to be able to remove things is going to be really good because we're pretty light on artifact and enchantment removal. There's probably enough. All right, am I talking myself out of Shadow Spear? That seems insane. That's probably a cut. We'll cut it. Fine. Fine. There we go. All right, Sentinel Eyes this is a cool one, but it is an aura +1/+1 and has vigilance. And so Ketramose has lifelink, menace, indestructible, and vigilance +1/+1, but also the escape. One, exile two other cards from your graveyard. Also draw a card, lose a life off of Ketramose, and you get to recast it. Pretty consistent, and that's going to help you out a lot, I think. So there we cut Shadow Spear again, seems crazy, but everything else is kind of dealing with exiling or some sort of ramp or protection. And Shadow Spear kind of just took it that extra step that maybe we want to cut back on. Um, we'll see what kind of ramp we want to cut um when we're doing ramp piles. All right, 2 CMC here. We have Weathering Wretch. 1 mana, remove target card in the graveyard from the game, which also allows you to draw a card, lose a life. One reason why I backed off on graveyard removal, I should talk about this a little bit, is because most of my creatures, most of my removal is exiling. And so if I'm not putting creatures into the graveyard for other people, I'd either have to be milling or turning my creatures into and my spells into destroy more maybe wraths instead of exiling wraths or solitude. Swords of Plowshare become less good when you're want more graveyard exiling, like Rest in Peace or Leyline of the Void. Like those are the obvious pieces. And so this allows me to kind of pick things off as I go. And maybe Rip and Leyline are just still better, but I think I want to go with this so that I can control when I'm drawing. And also with Ketramose, it says 1 or more. So if you rat the board and exiling all these cards, it's just 1 draw. Whereas every time you activate this, you get to draw a card. So that's kind of the thought behind this at this point. Lion Sash, same thing, but you get a 1/1 counter on it for each if it was a permanent when you're exiling. So it becomes a bit more of a threat. Felia, Exuberant Shepherd, 2/2 flash. Whenever it attacks, exile non-land permanent. It doesn't matter. So it can be yours if you want whatever value you're trying to blink, or you can just remove a nice blocker or a token. Yeah, just non-land. So you can kill tokens this way and stuff like that. So cool card. Treasure Map, just there for the scry, and then the drawing cards. I just like it because it's scrying, drawing, giving you some treasures and stuff like that. It's a nice all around, but I think we'll cut this for now. We got to make 25 cuts eventually. Sorry. Senu, Keen-Eyed Protector, 2/1 Flying Vigilance, tap, exile. Senu, you gain 2 life and scry 2. Whenever a legendary creature you control attacks and isn't blocked, if Senu is exiled, put it onto the battlefield attacking. So it can exile itself, um, and then, you're drawing cards, you're scrying, gaining life. Doing a lot in this deck, I'd say. Archivist of Ogma. You do have cards like Path to Exile in here, so you can activate this almost yourself. But whenever an opponent searches their library, you gain a life and draw a card. So a little bit more card draw. Um, I think I can kind of cut this though. I think Ketramose is going to draw me enough cards. I think, along with all the blinking and cards like this. Dusk Legion Zealot, 1/1 ETBs, draw a card, lose a life. And so if you're exiling this to do more cards and drawing more, it feels like I should be drawing enough cards. Spirited Companion, when it ETBs, draw a card. Wall of Mourning, 0/4 Defender, when it ETBs, exile a card from the top of your deck face down for each opponent you have. So generally it's going to be 3. And then at the beginning of your end step, if you control 3 or more creatures with different powers, put a card exiled with the wall into your hand. So it's basically a draw during each upkeep. And then whenever you need to reset it, you can just blink it in this deck. So that's kind of where this is going. Wall of Omens, 0/4 Defender, when it ETBs, draw a card. Surveyor's Scope, artifact, tap, exile it, so you get to draw a card off that. Search your library for up to X basic land cards, where X is the number of players who control at least 2 more lands than you. Put those cards into the battlefield, then shuffle your deck. Um, Now I do have enough cards in here that are just putting lands into play, so I don't know how often I'm gonna be behind by 2 lands, which is kind of a lot. But it's a card that I don't get a there's not a lot of chances to go and play this, and so it's not bad to pay 2, tap, exile, don't get any lands, and just draw a card. Like, well, that's worst case scenario. I don't love it, but, I'm gonna try and play this one because there's not a lot of opportunities for it. And, one of those cards that goes and puts lands into play, Sword of the Animus, is just one of those where I wanted lands going into play, but I do think I want to cut this one and be okay with Sword of Hearth and Home, which is very similar, but, we'll cut that. Arcane Signet, just for that ramp, need it. Mind Stone, ramp, and a little bit of draw once you get enough land out there. Orzhov Signet. Signets, I like it in 2 color decks. Same thing with Ornithopter of Paradise. Any non-green deck, this is going to probably go in for me or be heavily considered. Talisman of Hierarchy. I like the talismans in my 2 color decks. Sheltered by Goats. Goats. Then, you got Bill showing up here. But good evening, cousin Lowery. Hey, Bill from Woodbury. Thanks for showing up, man. All right. Sheltered by Ghosts. It's an aura on a creature you control. When an ETBs, exile target non-land permanent and opponent controls until Shepherd by Ghosts leave the battlefield. Enchanted creature gets +1/+0 and has lifelink and ward 2. So you put this on Ketramose, it gets +1/+0, ward 2, it already has indestructible, lifelink, and menace, and then you're exiling something to draw a card, lose a life for 2 mana. That seems like bonkers. That's great value there. Uh, Getaway Glamour, 1, and then the spree. The other one is exile target non-token creature, return it to the battlefield under your owner's control. So it doesn't even have to be yours. It can be another opponent's. And then it also +2 is destroy target creature if no other creature has greater power. So it can be a blink, it can be a destroy. Nice flexibility there. Flicker by Fate, exile target creature or enchantment, and then return it to the battlefield under its owner's control. That can be yours or an opponent's. I chose these because you can get rid of tokens with this. You can get rid of uh your own stuff and reset your ETBs, and they're all instant speed. It's not a bad deal. Other worldly journey, remove target creature from the game. So anybody's, you get to draw cards off that with Ketramose. That's the way to be. Long road home, same thing. Target creature 1/1 counter. Doesn't matter whose is what's. Swiftfoot boots and Greaves for that hasty protection. I cut a couple cards there, didn't I? But I kind of like a lot of this. I really did want to probably do more cards like Sheltered by Ghosts. So just do like blanking on it, but like um I'm blanking on all of them. What is going on? Oblivion Ring, cards like that. So like they come into play, they exile something, be able to draw a card, and then if it goes away, their stuff comes back into play. And that was the back draw, but it's not fun like getting a wrath, getting all rid of all your stuff, and then all of their stuff comes back. But it felt like a kind of a cool idea. So there's a little bit left over at like Shelter by Ghosts. All right. 3 spot. Again, we do proxies. Our rule generally is you got to own it. Not generally. It is hard and fast, but you got to own it to be able to proxy it and stuff like that. So that's generally how we play. Harrow of Bretagard. 3 mana, 1/1. Whenever you exile one or more cards from your hand and or permanents from the yard or from the battlefield, put that many 1/1 counters on Hero of Bretagard. As long as you have 5 or more counters on it, it has flying, angel, and in addition to its other types. And then as long as it has 10 or more counters on it, it's indestructible and is a god in addition to its other types. This is probably cuttable, but it's pretty cool. And I want to see if this can stay in there. It could be really, really big in here. Exile one or more cards from your hand and or permanents from the battlefield. So if you're blanking your stuff or their stuff or exiling their stuff, you get to put 1/1 counters on this. It'll get bigger and bigger. Generally, I try and stay away from cards like this that don't really do anything other than become a big beater. And that's kind of what this is. It doesn't have I don't have a 1/1 counter theme in here either to like justify keeping it around, but I do have the exile. So this will stick around for now and we'll see if it can last. Mimic Vat, that's going to be a really cool one. 3 mana artifact. It's been a long time since I played this, but whenever a non-token creature is put into the graveyard from the battlefield, you may exile that card. So it goes in the graveyard. You get to exile it. Ketramose is going to draw you a card. Um, and then you can pay 3, tap, and then put a token out of that creature that you've exiled, which is potentially, cards that come into play and exile other creatures, which will draw you cards and stuff like that. It is a exile at the beginning of the next end step as well, which I think gets you to draw a card. So there's a lot going on here, and it's going to be awesome. I think Mimic Fat is probably the least amount talked about for this deck. It's going to be really good. Promise of Tomorrow. This one I similar, but all right, it's an enchantment. Whenever a creature you control dies, exile it. So it dies, goes into your graveyard, and then it gets exiled, and you get to draw a card, lose a life. At the beginning of each end step, if you control no creatures, sacrifice Promise of Tomorrow and return all cards exiled with it to the battlefield under your control. So the reason why I'm worried about this card is that it gets rid of my graveyard, which isn't maybe terrible because I'm not doing a ton with it in this deck. But with Ketramose having indestructible, I likely will have a creature for a very long time. And sometimes the first Theros gods, they weren't creatures if they weren't activated with the amount of pips that they were with. Um, these Ketramose and then the green blue froggy, they're creatures. They just can't attack or block if you're not meeting their expectations. So um, they're still creatures. They so I'm worried about this never working other than just drawing me cards and exiling my own creatures. So right now I'm gonna cut this. But if people are bouncing or exiling all, Ketramose, more than likely, I'll put it back in. And I'm gonna take a drink. All right, Far Traveler. Enchantment, commander creatures you own have at the beginning of your end step, exile up to one target tapped creature you control, then return it to the battlefield under its owner's control. So it's exiling, you draw a card, you're going to get that ETB trigger. That's going to do good for you. Gravestorm, second opportunity I've been able to play with this. I had this in my Umbris deck and it was perfect there as well. But 3 black enchantment. At the beginning of your upkeep, target opponent may remove a card from his or her graveyard from the game. If that player doesn't, you may draw a card. So it's either you get to draw a card or they exile a card and you draw a card. So it should work out nicely there. Necropotence, this is great for filling up your hand, but also let's see here if I can figure out how to next discard phase. Okay. So it is at the beginning now. All right. So there is, they've changed some of the wording on this one with the newer things. But basically what it said is if you discard a card from your hand, remove that card from the game. Oh, that part. Oh, it's still really good. Let's just say Necropotence is going to do Necropotence things. But if you're discarding from your hand and it's being exiled from the graveyard, that will not trigger the draw. If it's coming from the battlefield into the graveyard and then exiled instead, that would trigger Ketramose to draw you a card. But if it's coming from your hand or the library, that's not going to draw a card for you. So there you go. Cutsel's Flanker, that is an ETB creature, and it's there either for the gain 2, scry 2, or exile target player's graveyard. And so just kind of nice ETBing there. Callous Blood Mage, 3 mana, 2/1 vampire warlock, but it's there for the draw card or exile target player's library. So one of the reasons why I'm not running like Rest in Peace or Ley Line of the Void are these two cards as well, because they can be blanked and just exiling a card and maybe getting more triggers off of it. Inspiring Overseer, 2/1 flyer, ETBs, gain a life, draw a card. Phyrexian Rager, creature ETB, draw a card, lose a life. Then you have Rumor Gatherer. Whenever a creature comes into play, scry a card. If it's the second time, you get to draw a card. So not a bad deal either. Oh, we're getting to the threes. Oh, I'm already in the threes. All right. Well, look at me. All right. Sword of Hearth and Home. It's perfect in this deck. Pro green, pro white, +2/+2. Whenever it deals damage, blink one of your creatures, and then and then also go put a land, basic land into play tapped from your deck. So that's doing a lot of things that you like. Hourglass of the Lost, tap to add a white, put a time counter on this artifact, then tap, remove X time counters from Hourglass of the Lost and exile it, draw a card. Return each non-land permanent card with mana value X from your graveyard to the battlefield, exile or activate only as a sorcery. So it's ramp, it exile itself to draw you a card. It does some recursion if things have gone sideways. It doesn't have to be exact. So mana value X from your graveyard to the battlefield, activate only as a sorcery. Yeah. So you kind of got to plan that out a little bit, or you just don't care and just be happy with the ramp. Chain of Custody, 3 mana aura, enchant a creature you control. When it ETBs, exile target non-land permanent an opponent controls until Chains leaves the battlefield. Enchanted creature has ward 2. Again, you set that up on Ketramose, and that thing's going to stay gone longer than they want. Lauren of the First Path. This is just ETB, destroy an artifact or enchantment, then tap to destroy, or for you and opponent to draw a card. So it's doing a lot. It's just kind of doing that ETB effect and being able to go after artifacts and enchantments. And like I said earlier, I don't have a lot of removal. There's plenty of non-land removal probably in here, but we'll see. Selfless Glyph Weaver. Exile it. Creatures you control gain indestructible until end of turn. So you get to draw a card off that exile. The backside is a Wrath for 8, which is a lot. And then Eerie Interlude. Great, great card. Exile any number of target creatures you control. Return those cards to the battlefield under your owner's control. When you exile one or more, you get to draw a card, but also it's just going to protect you from a wrath spell. So kind of like a flawless maneuver, but it's doing good work there. All right. Is there anything that I totally hate? I don't think so. Maybe Cutzel's Flanker. I was thinking that was going to be some exiling stuff. I'd have to look at there's a Modern Horizons 3 version of this as well, which I believe does some exiling, but I have to relook at it. I'm not even sure. Gravestorm still works for me. I don't hate any of these cards. I kind of want to go look at that other black one though. All right, give me a second. Let's see if I can find it real quick. The other one. Let's see if it's in this pile. Give me a second. All right, these are just kind of like, I guess I'm showing off. Living Death would be a cool one as well. It's just kind of, it exiles and then puts a bunch of creatures into play for you. But I don't plan on, they're not going to have a lot to do. I don't really plan on having my guys die very much. Oh, where are you? There it is. All right. Necro Dominance, 3 black. Skip your draw step. At the beginning of your end step, you may pay any amount of life. If you do draw that many cards, your maximum hand size is 5. And then if a card or token would be put into your graveyard from anywhere, exile it instead. So this one would not be bad. I'd have to go look at, I might pull this just, I'm going to put it in my cut pile so I don't look at it a bunch. It's a decision that I can make later off camera and whatnot. See which one I like better. Maybe it's both of them. Maybe it's both of them. I don't know if I like that, but and maybe I got to add in, cards that what like Thought Vessel or Reliquary Tower in the lands. I should run through the lands really quick too. Academy Rector, proxy, obviously. But when it dies, you may exile it, and then you get to go search for an enchantment from your deck and put it directly into play. So you get to draw a card, lose a life, go search. It's a bit of a tutor. I tend not to play with tutors as much as I can. This is pretty on theme. I have not used an Academy Rector in a long time. So it does make me want to put it in here, but also it is probably not good enough. If that makes sense, that's wild. That's wild. Let's not say that. With my, I don't like tutors in the deck. It might not be good enough at 4 mana. I don't have a sack outlet likely for this. There's a couple of good targets, and we can talk about that. But Cosmic Intervention. If a permanent you control would be put into a graveyard from the battlefield this turn, exile it instead, draw a card, return it to the battlefield under its owner's control at the beginning of the next end step, likely going to either draw more cards or exile more stuff, which will draw you more cards. Then it has Fort Cell, so it's a nice little protection spell. Preston the Vanisher. This one spiked because of this deck. Sup, Digital Squid. Thanks for joining. Whenever another non-token creature enters the battlefield under your control, if it wasn't cast, create a token that's a copy of that creature, except it's an 0/1 white illusion. Sacrifice 5 illusions, exile target non-land permanent. You're blinking a bunch of stuff, creating more tokens of those things that are either going to draw you cards or exile their creatures. This is basically like a Panharmonicon in the deck with more tokens and stuff like that. It's Sepollos. I didn't know that. Oh, you got so many monikers, huh? But Preston's going to be pretty sweet in here. Panharmonicon, doubling those triggers. ETB. Kayak Ghost Assassin. That is there for the -2. No, for the 1. Nope, for the 0. Exile this and a creature. And then bring them back at the end of the turn. You lose 2 life. So it's there for the blinking and stuff like that. it's kind of a reset, but also there's just like each opponent loses 2 life and gain 2 life. -2, each opponent discards a card and you draw a card. So it has some general value in this deck, I'd say, but the reset is also just beneficial to you. I do have Solitude in the deck, my friend, that I changed over the summer, just never changed Discord name. Gotcha, gotcha. Um, yeah, yep. I got you missed the beginning part, but I got a pretty one there for you right there. So that's once they did the reprint with those special guest artists, I tried to go out because the prices went down dramatically for them. So all those Evoke ones are beautiful. Um, so Kaya is pretty cool. Might be a little tough to keep in there. I think I like the other versions that kind of blink better, but we'll see. Battle Angels of Tyr. This is doing a lot. The important thing here is Myriad is there. It's going to create the tokens. You're going to get all those benefits, but the Myriad is an exile at the end of the at the end of combat, and so you get to draw a card off of the Ketramose trigger there. This one's really sweet. I am excited for Mirror of Life Trapping. This is an artifact. Whenever a creature enters the battlefield, if it was cast, exile it, then return all other permanent cards exiled with Mirror of Life's trappings to the battlefield under their owner's control. So this also applies to your opponents. They can kind of double up on some of their ETBs, but yours is just going to be better, I think. And so it's going to ETB, and then it's going to exile. You're going to draw a card, and then the next creature that comes into play, it's going to ETB again, likely exile something and drawing more cards. Um, this card I feel like is going to be really good in here. Uh, oh man, what are you running in the modern version of Ketramose? That's why the card went up so much, and I have not actually bought the physical card yet. I mean, it just came out. I'm hoping it'll go down in the next few weeks. I almost bought it at 20 and then went it up to like 40. I was just hoping that something comes out, but teleportation circle, that is a blinking at the end of your turn, and so it's going to draw you a card, reactivate your ETBs. Going to do some good stuff there. That's basically an Espert Oculus. Oh, was that the one you were talking about on the Discord? Core Cartographer, ETB, go put a planes card into play tapped. And so that's just one of those that'll get you lands. Oh, gotcha. That'll be fun. Oculus is a crazy good card. Solemn, I haven't again, this is a card I have not played in a while, and I'm glad to have the opportunity to have it be blinkable, drawing a card potentially and all that stuff. Smothering Tithe, I'm gonna keep this in just because I have a higher top end than I normally do. Generally, I try and cut Smothering Tithe because it does become super annoying. So, but you'll see what I'm talking about. Crypt Ghast, Swamps produce an additional black. I don't want to cut this, but I don't have an extra Urborg lying around either. Maybe I'm lying. Let me check that out. Quick, just seeing the lands, what I got there. Don't need to go over it too much. I don't think I have it sitting here though. Yeah, no Urborg. Yeah, so I don't have an Urborg. I likely am only going to run a couple of duels with the Swamp subtype and then a couple of basics, probably 3 or 4. So I don't know if Crypt Gas is worth it. Let's make a cut for that right now. Doesn't have any ETB, no exiling, anything like that. The gain life is probably nice to offset the life loss from Ketramose, but all right, what you got? Frog plus Oculus. Cantripping just feels so good. Running 3 relics of Progenitus as draw engines and hate against Teamer Breach just feels so good. You know what? I believe it. I am not running Relic of Progenitus in here, but I was very much thinking about building a deck with a lot of those kind of effects. So, Witch Enchanter is one of those flip cards for a land, and ETB is destroy an artifact or enchantment. So it's just one of those trying to take care of enchantments and artifacts, and you got some blinking that can go on. So, Settle the Wreckage, exile all attacking creatures target player controls. That player may search his or her library for that many basic lands. So it's exiling, you get to draw a card. It's wrathing aside. Portcullis, 4 mana artifact. Whenever any creature comes into play, if there are 2 or more other creatures in play, set that creature aside. If Portcullis leaves play, put the creature into play under its owner's control. So you have Ketramose and at least maybe one more card in play. You can hope that nobody destroys your stuff. You can blink your opponent's stuff, and when it comes into play, Portcullis can make it disappear. Um, it does kind of shut off your Eerie Interlude and Semester's End and stuff like that. But and I don't know how griefer this will be. It's an option, but I think I'm going to cut it for now because I think it might make things too slow, if that makes sense. So I'll probably do that. Semester's End. You could run Rest in Peace, and all the removal spells turn into cantrips. Yeah, so that's one of the things. I'm not running Rip because most of my spells are exiling already. And so I felt like Swords of Plowshare, Path to Exile wouldn't be filling up my opponent's graveyards. And so I felt like Rip and Swords of Plowshares were kind of fighting against each other. I could definitely be wrong, but I ended up running just like Lion Sash, Marrow Bonar, and the Weathered Wretch in their place so that I can just kind of control it. Yeah, same thing with Dothai Voidwalker. I just kind of avoided it because I felt like I wasn't going to be putting enough stuff in the yard. Um, so that's why I went that route. So Semester's End, just like Eerie Interlude, going to be blanking and protecting your stuff and resetting your ETBs. Worship, enchantment. If you control a creature, damage that would reduce your life to less than 1 reduces it to 1 instead. So it's going to be hard to kill you when Ketramose with Indestructible is in the battlefield. Lisa, Forgotten Archangel. There's another one that technically can go in that list that you're talking about, Poyos. All right, do you prefer Digital Squid? I don't know. But 4/5 flying lifelink. Whenever another non-token creature you control dies, return that card to your hand at the next end step. And if a creature an opponent controls would die, exile it instead. So it is that like when their creature dies, it's going to get exiled. You're going to draw more cards, and it does save some of your creatures if they are dying as well. So should be decent. Again, there are a lot of options that kind of fill that need, like you're saying. Uh, Either or, homie. Uh, okay. Yeah, cool. Elish Norn, this one is a hater card for sure, but this is hopefully if this comes on the battlefield, you're going to start winning the game pretty handily at that point. Conjurer's Closet, it's one of those blink effects at the end of the turn. There we go. Estral Extortionist, 4/3 flying. Whenever ETBs or deals combat damage to a player, exile up to 1 target non-land permanent. Again, can hit anything other than a land. And for as long as that card remains exiled, the owner may cast it. And whenever another player casts a spell from anywhere other than their hand, draw a card. So that's graveyard, exile like Foretell, or we're talking about commanders that'll draw you cards. So that should be pretty cool. And then along with exiling, whenever you get that chance, you'll draw cards off that as well. Arbiter of Woe, 6 mana, 5/4. Additional cost, sack a creature. Flying, whenever this creature enters, each opponent discards a card, loses 2 life. You draw a card and gain 2 life. And so there's a bit of a theme there with this. Let's find some of the other cards that are doing what I was just talking about. Shroud Stomper, when this one ETBs or attacks, each opponent loses 2 life. You gain 2 life and draw a card. So kind of like the Arbiter of Woe. And then also, there we go. Archon of Cruelty. That one's pretty similar, but this one's a badass. 6/6 flyer. When it ETBs or attacks, target opponent sacrifices a creature or a planeswalker, discards a card, loses 3 life, and you draw a card and gain 3 life. So kind of trying to replicate the Archon of Cruelty with these 3 cards. They're pretty cool in that regard. Winds of Abandon, overload it, 6 mana, exile all your opponent's creatures, and they go get basic lands, and you're going to draw a card, I guess, but you're kind of resetting the board. Illuminate Primordial, 4/7 Vigilance, ETB, exile a creature for each opponent, and they gain life equal to the power. Angel of Ruins, 5/7 flying ETB, exile up to 2 target artifacts and or enchantments. Draw a card. Ashen Rider, whenever it enters or dies, exile target permanent. Duplicate, when it ETBs, exile target non-token creature. And then Legion Loyalty with that Myriad again, like I was saying. At the end of combat, all the myriads would be exiled. You get to draw one card off of it, but it's going to create a lot of ETB effects going on in this deck. So there we go. Let's see what else we can cut from what I was just saying, because I haven't cut anything since Porkless. But I like a lot of this top end removal. I don't know how much I like the Wraths because they're not ETB. They're only drawing me one card. And sometimes you just take the hit if you're getting overrun. Is that something that I'm fine with? Probably. I generally don't like Wraths just because they really slow down the game. I'd rather just let people run me over half the time. So I think I'm cutting that and then settle the wreckage, even though it's probably the wrong choice. I still like Lisa, like we were kind of talking. Worship feels like a nice protection piece. Blink, let's cut subtle. Smothering Tithe, Solemn, Cart Cartographer, Battle Angels. I think we can cut Kaya as well. I like Cosmic Intervention, Academy Rector. So I think we're cutting Kaya just because is this better than Conjurer's Closet? Is the question, because you can choose different things. I'm likely not going to be doing multiple hits, I guess. I don't know. I think Worship is a cut. Super niche if you can run a small life gain package. Like Gary. You know what? I've run Gary. I ran Gary recently, like in the last couple of years. And so I'll probably avoid that. I think I was running it in my Tesa deck from last year from Murders. Or something like that. It was so I'll probably avoid Gary. I don't have any life gain other than a couple of one life gainers and stuff like that. So I think these three I'm cutting. Let's see where we're at. Sorry. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Technically 10 because the Necro Dominance was not in there before. So we have like 15 more cuts to go with. Man, you're saying Worship. I get that. It's pretty niche. But I do think Ketramose probably just saves me, but also it might just be an annoying card to keep around. All right. We can cut that. All right. I'm going to go into whatever they're doing. That's just a random ass thing. Protection, doubling. Technically a double. That's a blink. Nope. Let's see here. Make sure everything gets on there. Manas, removal. Should be protection. There we go. That can be a protector. Doubling. Draw, removal. I don't remember what I put that as. That's probably just protection. Blink. Draws. Drawing. Manas. Exile, removal, protection. Blink. I think it did that. This can be more protection as well. It's just the blink aspect can be just used on your own creature to save it or reset the ETBs. So it's not a bad deal in that regard. Wall of Mourning is kind of slow. Like if I'm trying to blink it multiple times, it's not going to do anything for me. It's set. There we go. Protection, exiles. Ba, 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 ba. Okay. Do we got everything other than that? Let's consider that a treasure. I don't know. So whenever there's something that gives me a draw and some ramp, I put it off to the side, and then you got to decide on is it going to do more for you here or there? And honestly, this deck might have enough of both of those. And so along with Legion loyalty with the Myriad, I like the idea of keeping Myriad in here, but maybe we can just cut Battle Angels. Let's look at some of the graveyard removal, and we don't need a lot of it, like I've been thinking. And if I do, then I'll switch over to probably Rip, Dalthai, Voidwalker, all those major hits. I'm going to try and avoid them for now, though. Uh, let's see here. If Academy Rector is on Death Trigger, it kind of feels like a cut since you're really leaning into ETB and Flicker, especially since you need your opponents to kill it without a sack outlet. You most likely will make mana with Battle Angels since drawing so many cards. Yeah, I agree with that with Battle Angels. I do think I'll just kind of cut it because I think I have enough lands coming into play with um let's see here. Surveyor Scope probably won't be active, but it's the only chance I have to play it. Sword of Hearth and Home, Solemn Core Cartographer, and then also Wayfarer's Bauble. So there's like putting lands into play. I almost was thinking Walking Atlas in here as well, because Walking Atlas is going to put an extra land into play every turn if I'm drawing enough cards. Um, but that's in the pile. That's cut at this point. So that's where we're at. What else were you thinking? Yeah, yep. I was kind of feeling that same way about Academy Rector. I don't have a sack outlet. I need them to kill it or like I have it sitting around and blocking with it. And it's not necessarily a death trigger. It is, but you have to choose to exile it when it dies. And so you do get to draw a card off of Academy Rector when it dies, but I don't have a lot of control in that. And that's really only like Legion loyalty, um, probably Smothering Tithe, and maybe the blinking circle, teleportation circle. Those are probably the 3 that I'd go get, which also is kind of limiting me in what it's not giving me a variety of stuff that I can go tutor for. So I agree. I can cut with that. Mm, yes. Oh, that's a really, really good point. Ketramose only triggers on your turn. And so if I have to block with Academy Rector, it's not going to die on my turn, thusly does not matter. Very good point. I forgot about that one. Um, okay. So graveyard shenanigans. I don't dislike any of these at this point. If I were to cut something, probably be Marrow Bonar. I love Mimic Vat as an idea in here. So I think that stays no matter what. Um, but I think I like these. I'm fine with them at this point. All right, the random pile, Sentinelize for the vigilance, and then the exiling with the escape. Hero of Bertrograd should be able to get pretty big. Could maybe close out some games. There's enough exiling in this deck. It would trigger for the flickers. It triggers for the exiling of the creatures. Not for graveyard shenanigans, but at this point, I think it's doing something. Bit of blink here. Uh, that's true. You know what? Polios, I'm probably the main reanimator guy in my crew. And so it's if somebody's borrowing my deck, then it'll keep it in check. But I agree, there just isn't a lot that I have to run into because I'm that problem. So but yeah, totally agree with you. So I like Thalia. There is a 4 mana version of this out there as well. I already cut that just because of the CMC cost for that. But these are back here. Oh, you were thinking cut closet and put in Kaya. I do like Kaya's flexibility. Um, 2, 3. I like those 3. I'm cool with the switch up. get Kaya in there because I like Kaya. I have not played it in a long time, if I ever have, and I like that little bit of draw attached to it. The life gain I don't really care about, but I like that draw. So it's like -2, blink it. That's probably the cycle that I would do in this deck. Yeah, so I'm cool with those 4. We're down there. Let's go with the doubling. Let's see what Legion Loyalty, I really like that in there. Elish Norn is really looked down upon, I get that. Um, but I think it's probably gonna be just annoying that I'm gonna be exiling their stuff quicker. Mirror of Life Trapping, I really like it in here. Panharmonicon and Preston. Yeah, Preston's definitely an auto include, same thing with Mirror. And I like the idea of Legion Loyalty. Yeah. There's a lot of ETB triggers in here, so I wanna keep that. Let's go with what do we got here? Protection. It's kind of a fistful here. Let's maybe look at this a little differently. Spread that out, see what we need. All right, so indestructible, blinking only my stuff, blinking anybody's stuff, and this is that. We have Boots and Greaves. Let's see here. Selfless Glyph, Semester's End, Lisa. Okay, so there's kind of like 4, 6 different things here going on. These are blinking. These are kind of saving from death. I like both of these. I like Boots and Greaves just to keep Ketramose alive. Um, it's a bit of a wrath if I need it. It's kind of a, and I like that it can protect my stuff. Maybe we cut Flawless Maneuver just because we have enough technical protection. Um, we probably need to cut down on it a little bit. I like the 1 drops, and I kind of like the 2 drops as well. I mean, technically, there we go. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Technically, these could go into like the Mimic Vat pile, which is a little bit more reanimator. Maybe that's how I should look at that a little bit. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Still probably too much in the protection package, even though it works with everything. Let's go back and look at our graveyard hate. So I'd probably put those in there, those 3 and those 3. Lisa's gonna be some good hate. I think earlier I was saying if I had to cut something, it'd be Marrow Bonar. I think I'm agreeing with myself at that point. If I'm looking at this as graveyard interaction, even though this is hate, this is hate, this is hate, this is hate, and these 2 are more like reanimation pieces, with Lisa also being a reanimation piece. I if I'm gonna cut something, I think it's Marrow Bonar. I don't have to. I don't have to do that right now at any degree. So we're fine there. I'll do another count. All right. The life gain will matter late game, since it'll negate the down side of 2 draws. Yeah. The shoes can put since you have so much protection, if you really want to have one more, throw in new Athreos. When you're saying the shoes, are you saying Greaves and Boots? Is that what you're saying? That's probably a good point. Okay. Let's see where that is. There is a lot of blinking protection that can be done in here. Feels weird cutting those ones though. I'm really used to those. All right. Let's see where we're at. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Psh, we might get there, folks. All right, some of the removal. We have Solitude, Path, Swords, Deadly Rollick. So those are kind of like Pinpoint, Instant Speed, Sheltered by Ghosts, and Chain of Custody. And then you have, let's see here, Witch Enchanter and Lorn are similar in just destroying artifacts and enchantments. These two get anything. These four get creatures. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of those. I think I'm pretty happy with this removal package. Kind of like high in that top end a little bit, but I think I'm happy with that. Especially with plenty of draw ETBs and trying to get more land. I think I don't want to get rid of much here because that'll be pretty important in the deck. If anything, I'd probably go back to some of these 2 mana flicker effects rather than the exiling removal. How many more cuts? About 10. About 10. I don't have to get there. We're doing pretty good on time as well. I was going to go through this and actually doing pretty well. But all right, Asper Sentinel. Let's see here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. 16 is right there on what I don't really want to cut beyond that. I'm probably pretty happy with that at this point. I don't like to drop below 15. So if I cut one, we have, how many cards above? 1, 2, 3. You got 3 of the 16 that are late game draw in this. And so I probably don't want to get rid of it. Maybe we do add in just that Necro Dominance. Adds a little bit of exile to your stuff that can potentially draw you more cards. Ketramose also is going to draw me a ton of cards, so I don't know how much I want to be above 15 in this deck. Wall of Mourning. It's not really an ETB. Let's cut Wall of Mourning. Let's do that. All right, back down to 10 cuts. And just be happy with some of these ETBs. Cutzel's Flanker. Also, you know what? I do have, thinking about some more, we have Callous Blood Mage and the Flanker in here as Graveyard Exile. Let's get rid of that Marrow Bone Gnar. Let's just stop putzing around with that as well. I think I have, kind of growing with the idea of how much Graveyard Hate. I got Bajoka Bog in there. I think I have that Desert as well. Maybe. I might not have, but there is a desert out there that can exile. Oh, that's kind of a fun one. Hostile Desert. Exile land card becomes a creature, but you're not really caring about that. That's an exile land. But it's I don't remember the name of that land. All right. It's not in there, but I could if I want to. It exiles all graveyards. You can cut a land and throw in Bogart Traveler. Your spells that flicker and permanents can target those flip lands, and they will enter again as the creature side. Can they target? I mean, most of it's pretty creature specific. I don't think it's. Let's go find that flicker effect. So, target non-token creature, creature enchantment, creature from the game, creature. So most of these are just creatures. Are you saying that I can target a land even though it has creature on the other side? I would say that it's a land and I probably can't target it. Right? Let's see here real quick. But if it is ephemerate, that might be the only target creature you control. So, yeah, there isn't much that allows me to flip a land over. If I had something that allowed me to pick it up like a bounce land, I could do that to a degree. Um, there's some truth there too. Originally, I did not want to have the creatures that ETB'd and exiled players' graveyards. These 2 do give me the scry and the draw, and so I'm not hating on those as much as I maybe should. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 16. I was gonna be running 30, 35, or 36 land, somewhere in that range as well. Alright, on to the ramp package, Soul Ring, let's put that up there. Lotus Petal, which is a card I never really like. Let's see here. 17. Yes, Flicker Wisp, is great card for sure when it comes to that. 12, 17. We can maybe I'm gonna cut Lotus Petal. It's a good card. Yeah, Ketramose on turn 2. Maybe that stays. Maybe that's was my thinking. Mox Amber, Springleaf Drum, Dark Ritual, Wayfarer's Bauble. I don't think I hate anything in here. The only thing is probably the scope. I even like Hourglass of the Lost, even though I don't think that's gonna work very much for the, I don't wanna get rid of scope though, because this is like the only deck it's gonna be running. Uh Oh, okay, okay, okay. That makes sense. Flicker Wisp into Ephemerate, or really just any blink effect, and then you can blink anything. I that Yeah. I think I was trying to I don't know if I necessarily want creatures that ETB to blink more things. I think I wanted more of the Conjurer's Closet style thing going on so that it was more consistently happening at the end of my turn. Um, because there's like that prince that'll blink stuff. There's a lot of creatures that could have went in here. Restoration Angel, that new swan or goose or whatever from Bloomborough. Um, there's a lot of those kind of cards. I get that Flicker Wisp can hit anything. Um, I'll have to think about it for sure. It was Flicker Wisp was the deal because that's the other thing. I was going to talk about, and maybe let's see if I can find it real quick from my cut pile, because I know we were kind of like from the Exile Discord, we were talking about, people were talking about spicy cards. Mangara, the first version from Time Spiral. So here, like Charming Prince, Salvation Swan, Restoration Angel, Timeless Dragonwood Exile with that Internalize. These are all cards that I had cut previously. I have a pile of 300, when I start 250 to 300, because there was this too, Containment Priest, start flickering your opponent's stuff and exiling it that way. Um, Extirpate, Flicker Wisp right there. Same thing with Feldar Guardian, enters, exile another target permanent. So Feldar Guardian can be in that idea. But Mangara, what that does is the wording. God, I wanna see it first. Give me a second. Um, let's see here. There's a little bit of life gain and drain going on before. Where are you, Mangara? I think that lasted a while. Let's see here. There's some reanimation ideas that I was going to work with a little bit too. There's that Phyrexian Furnace going on. Where are you? Oh, I might add that in later too. All right. A little bit of a mill package if I was going to go into the graveyard a bit more. Where is Mangara? Come on. 2 cards with Ketramose each time you blink spells target those creatures. Yeah, for sure. For sure. Some graveyard hate. Where the hell is Ketramose? Or not Ketramose, Mangara. So there's the Banisher Priest, Wolfguard Bodyguard, Bishop of Binding, Palace Jailer. Like that was kind of how I started with the deck, and I was like, oh, that could be really fun to exile all their stuff. So one of the things with Mangara, what they used to do in Legacy was they would tap, target anything. There we go. There we go. It was fucking last bit. Okay. So here's a little trick with Mangara. It has tap, colon, and then it's exile Mangara and target permanent. So what happens here is there is time in between the colon and when this effect happens that you can exile any permanent, and you can either blink or return Mangara to your hand, like with Caracas was what people were doing in Legacy, and so it slowly exile their stuff. And that could be a fun thing that you can blink it, reset it, and then it'd be a different permanent and stuff like that. So that was something that I wanted to kind of do as well, but it's so slow. It's so slow. Good thing I just wasted 3 minutes on that, eh? Let's see here. And going back to mana, I just don't hate any of this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This is kind of a basic thing that I normally do. Maybe get rid of Ornithopter. 3, 4, 9, 16. Be happy with 16, and maybe that's where we're at. All right. Let's see here. Let's get that in the back. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 19. 18 technically with so we have like 6 or 7 more. All right, let's go let's do card types real quick just to see if something's getting too much love or not enough. I've said it enough times. I think I need to cut Surveyor's Scope. I don't think it's going to be very good. I could be wrong, but I don't think it's going to be very good for me. So, how many legendaries do I run? Let's check that out. That's something that we can be figuring out right now. That's a good question. Are you talking about legendary creatures or just legendary permanents in general? Um, I'm not sure how much I'm really worried. Oh, I mean, I think it's more of just like quick and easy. It's gonna always be around. Color of legendary creature and planeswalker you control. Yeah, I think that's just easy to come down when I'm drawing, and it's just a little bit of ramp as I'm drawing more. I think that's all my thinking is on that one. Instance, I might not have any sorceries in here anymore. I think the one sorcery that I had was the what was it? Man, brain's a little bit dead here tonight, I guess. Winds of Abandon was the only sorcery that I had going into the night. All right, one planeswalker. I don't hate it. Less than 8. It can be cut. I mean, yeah, but it is cheap ramp along with like Ketramose only being 3 mana. Like generally I don't have it in a deck if the commander is really like heavy handed. Let's see here. So Kaya's a legend. So a 1, 2, 3. Um, that won't count. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. See here. Almost exactly 8. 9. 9. With Ketramose at 10. So we have that. Oh. So we're under 9. Definitely at that point. So we have like 5 or 6. I still think it's going to do fine. Like Ketramose, I think is just going to stick around for forever. I'm willing to cut it. 1. All right. We'll let Kaya stick around. We're not super heavy on the enchantments. Um, Chain of Custody. I like both these because they are technically protection spells on Ketramose as well. A little bit of ward isn't going to hurt anybody. I think these are going to fill up the hand. Maybe that's the thought, is that maybe that's doing too much in a Ketramose deck. I mean, they're insane cards, right? With Necropotence and Necrodominance. But I probably don't need the draw. And so probably worth cutting. I don't like that. But also we can always feel out the deck and see how much it's actually drawing, because it could do pretty good. And if I don't feel like I need any draw, then it's probably best not to play Necropotence, because it's a really powerful card. It's a game changer. There we go. All right, we're fine there. Cosmic Intervention. I like that. 1, 2, 3, 4 with those. I don't hate any of those. I like that that has options. 2, 3, 4. Cloud Shift and Ephemerate. Eerie Interlude. Fine with the instance at that point. Artifacts, not a lot there either. Mirror of Life Trapping. Panamonicon. Mimic Vat, I think, is just going to be really nice for me. Solemn. Sword of Hearth and Home. Hourglass of the Lost. That's not going to reanimate anything. We'll leave it in. I think it'll be a fun one. Most of this artifact is just going to be base level. Let's make sure that everything works in the deck. I kind of want to go, let's see how many ETB creatures that we actually have. Bop, bop, bop. Let's see here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. Should be enough, right? All right, let's take a look at these. That's just kind of a random. I mean, so like, yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking. That just like the Necros don't really need to be anything because everything's a cantrip in the deck. I guess the question is when you're talking about like Flicker Wisp, would we want to be getting rid of something like Thalia, Exuberant Shepherd, and just like this is repeatable. The other thing is repeatable, with other things going on. And so I think I like Thalia better, maybe same. I like that I can choose their tokens and get rid of their tokens in that regard. Preston is gonna be some doubling up. How much graveyard hate do we actually want? Protection. Bunch of removal. I like a lot of the removal. Just that high end draw. That's kind of why I was thinking some reanimate stuff would be really good in this deck too. Bunch of just cantrip, stuff like that. Rumor gatherer. So that's kind of the graveyard hate right there. That's probably enough. Let's see here. Yeah. Let's see here. Exiling. I didn't want to get rid of much of more of the removal. I liked my draw. I didn't want to touch that. And that just kind of leaves everything else just kind of there. Hero, just as a basher, can probably be cut, like I was saying earlier. That's probably the time. Let's give a count and then let's do it like a CMC amount. Look at the curve, see how that's going. But I think we're getting pretty close here. Yeah, that's so I had talked about living death a little bit as well there. And I think my problem again is it's if somebody wraths me, then it's a great card, right? Um, I don't have any sack outlets. There's no random ass mill to get a bunch of my creatures coming into play. Oh, but you know what? You're probably right, right? So what happens? I got a bunch of exile creatures, and they come into play, and their stuff comes into play. If they have creatures, just exiling them individually when my stuff comes into play. Yeah, that sounds really good, right? Uh, and it's just a land early game. Not sure if I know. Is that the black mythic one? Because I'd have to check that one out. But I think I'm gonna go for what you were saying there. Let's see here. Because I think you're right about the that one. I do have it. Let's see here. And living death. You're not you you're not helping. I'm adding cards now. Thank you. But yeah, you're probably right. Living Death actually now sounds once I kind of worked my way through that, that sounds really good. Where when my creatures come back, I'm either drawing cards, the exiling from the graveyards draws me a card. They come into play. It's either drawing a card on the ETB or exiling their stuff that will also draw me cards. Um, yeah, that all sounds quite good. Agadeem's Awakening. I should probably look at that one. Return from your graveyard to the battlefield any number of target creature cards that each have different converted mana cost, X or less. That one, I'm not so sure about. I do have Lisa, I have Living Death, and I have um the artifact, Mimic Vat. I think that's probably what I want to stick with at this point for probably reanimation. Probably being thin on that. Let's see here. Let's get a count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 30. 30. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 66. That's probably it. That's not too bad. Poyos, you do good work, my man. Um, you're flooding a late game. It's yeah, I can believe it being pretty good. You know what? I'm at 66. I'm pretty happy at this. I'm still probably gonna just do the curve to see where it's at, but I'll probably be calling it a night here pretty quick. Um, Most of you'd seen the lands run through that pretty quick, and so that should be pretty easy. That's a tour. 1, 3, 4, 2 and 2. 4, 5. I do like that late ad of Living Death. That's a solid one. Threes, 1. Fiver, that's free. 4, 2, 5, 2, 2, and 3. All right. Sounds good. Yeah, have a good night. All right. Thanks for joining. All right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 on that top end. Nothing too bad. Normally I probably have about that much, but I normally have more in the 6 drop spot. So combining these two, not too bad. Pretty happy with that. 2, 3, 4. Not much at the 5 spot, not too thick. I'm probably pretty happy with this as well. 4 spot feels pretty good. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. You got plenty that happen like in the first couple turns, and then you have start blinking your stuff. Kaya, you got teleportation circle, you got some blinking going on, Panharmonicon. So that's kind of where we're at right there. Selfless glyph. I still probably don't love flanker. For each creature that left the battlefield under your control this turn. I don't love it, but I think let's cut it at this point. I just looking at it, scry 2. I'm back and forth. I'll see what happens there. Callous Blood Mage makes a ton of sense. That 3 spot. I like Mimic Vat a lot. I think Gravestorm's going to be doing some good work there. Lion Sash, Withered Wretch. There we go. I think 2 spot, plenty of action. Some of those blinks aren't going to do much until later game, but plenty of ramp. Some early graveyard hate. Then the 1 spot, we got some good removal, some good solid ramp or removal, ramp, draw. Not much further draw, but ramp is going to be solid. Okay. I like it. Hey, all right. Thanks a ton for watching. If you got any suggestions, hit it up in the comments. Appreciate you watching. Check out the podcast, share, like, subscribe, all that jazz. All right. Have a good night. Bye.